Welcome back to the Fun Run, where we like to run and we like to have fun. We all hope that you've been having a good week and everything's gone great. Here in Minnesota, it's become balmy. We've gotten up to 60 degrees with not too much wind, and so that was some very nice running weather.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to have that little hint of spring, before it started to rain and now get a little bit colder. But hey, it's still sunny, can't complain too much.
Exactly. Today we will be talking about the Glycerin 19, the Rivera, the Cloudswift, the Peregrine GTX 11, and the Guide 14, as well as doing a buyer beware segment on the relatively new shoe company On. James, you got anything to say extra to that? Let's start with the Glycerin 19. What do you think of it?
I didn't think it was anything too special. I mean, Brooks is Brooks, and they're going to feel pretty good for a lot of people, but it's a high cushion shoe. You're definitely going to feel a lot of cushion to it. I didn't feel as if anything stood out that was extremely special about it. I mean, you can definitely feel that cushion. But yeah, if you need something that's got a lot of cushion and feels great on your foot, it's a decent shoe to have.
Indeed, there's nothing really to set it apart from other high cushion shoes, such as the New Balance 1080, the Saucony Triumph or anything, or even the Hoka Bondi. It's just nice and plush. It does the job, the upper is comfortable, the lacing's fine. There's not much I can complain about, but there's not much that makes me say, yes, let me go out for a run in this shoe. And so it just kind of ends up in the middle of the road. It comes in at $150, which is a standard price for a high cushion neutral shoe. The Glycerin GTS feels exactly the same, has some pretty sizable guide rails if you pronate at all, and so both of them are fine options. Try them on, they're just not going to be all too special. Moving on to the Altra Rivera, a shoe that has been much anticipated, a follow-up to the odd Torin 4, and and people are wondering, is this sort of a return to the instinct, or is this something completely new? It's closer to the completely new side, but don't get your hopes up. The cushioning is ever so slightly minimal. It's probably a bit... There's not enough stack height for the mid-cushion level shoe that it wants to be. The midsole material as well is somewhat questionable, because you feel like when you put on the shoe and you start putting some paces through it, you can really feel the plushness in the shoe, but then your foot hits that point where the midsole hardens above the ground, and then it feels super responsive, and that just is a dichotomy that doesn't work, where you just feel the plush for a little bit and then you feel the hardness of the ground. As well, the upper is mostly fine, but the shoe is slightly short. If you're trying it on, go a half size up. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say that when I first tried it on, I was pretty excited about it. But then as soon as you really kind of start to walk around, run around, you definitely feel that difference from the plush to the firm, and that size, the sizing of it. It threw me for a loop. I wasn't expecting the size to be on the shorter end, considering Ultras do tend to be a little bit long. But yeah, I was trying to give it a thumbs in the middle, but the more I wore it around, it definitely kind of dipped down.
Indeed, one good thing about the Altra Rivera is that I believe it comes in at $120, which makes it about $10 below the new standard. But there's not much more good about it. Moving on to a shoe that you could describe in a similar way, except worse. It's the On Cloudswift. This shoe is supposed to be equivalent, so to speak, to the New Balance 880, Brooks Ghost, Saucony Ride, that sort of shoe, but it really doesn't feel like it. The cushioning feels really hard, really dense, it feels heavy. The sizing with all as with all on shoes feels like a tube with a consistent diameter throughout. And if you've ever seen a foot, you know feet aren't shaped like that, so the fit feels off. The midsole material feels off. I put these shoes on and they were painful from start to finish. And it comes in at $150, which is $20 above the industry standard for that sort of shoe.
Yeah, it's definitely not Swift. It's the complete opposite of that. I mean, I, uh, I still don't understand the pod technology. I don't feel like it's really going to give you any sort of positives in your runs. Um, it's Yeah, it's just not a good shoe. I mean, for 150, you have way better options. You have a whole bunch of different options that are way better than this. And yeah, gosh, I mean, we'll talk about it later as a brand, but yeah, it's not Swift.
Moving on swiftly to the Peregrine Gore-Tex 11. This shoe makes no sense. It comes in at $150, and the only difference over the regular Peregrine is the Gore-Tex upper, which is waterproof. There are honestly not too many situations that I can think of where you absolutely need the waterproofing. Unless you're an Egyptian chariot driver in the Red Sea, I don't see a use for it.
Yeah, I can only really think of a use if you're you're someone that likes to run extremely early in the morning and you're a trail runner. I mean, granted, these are the shoes that are designed for trail running, but if you're someone that's always early morning when the grass is all dewy, I could see it, but there's better options.
Indeed, and the Gore-Tex material isn't very breathable, so your foot's gonna sweat a lot. And it's not very stretchy at all, which is a problem with the Peregrine because the toe box is really narrow. That's one of the things I felt. The midsole material is fine, the fit in the heel and the mid-assembly is fine, but the toe box is darn narrow, and that Gore-Tex isn't going to stretch.
No, and I was really not expecting that, especially from Saucony, something that tends to be a little bit wider once you get up towards the toes. But yeah, I don't know exactly why they wanted to make it narrow, maybe to have more of like a sock fit. I kind of see more shoes trying to go towards that style with the knit upper. But yeah, with that Gore-Tex, your feet are going to get hot. They're going to swell, and it's not going to give you a good ride.
Indeed. And then the price, $150. The regular non-Gore-Tex Peregrine comes in at $120, and I think that with the same midsole material, a more breathable upper, it's just a lot more functional and a lot better value for your dollar. We will end this segment with another Saucony shoe, the Guide 14.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty great shoe. It is for that light guidance type of runner, so a little bit of stability. I mean, I'd be fine with it. I pronate ever so slightly, so I think that it would slightly do me a little bit of justice. But yeah, I think it's a pretty solid shoe by Saucony. They've definitely hit a pretty good ball with this one.
Indeed, the only thing I can think to complain about this shoe is that, well, there's two things. One, it's ugly. They got the styling wrong. And number two, the midsole is a bit firmer than I'd like it to be. I felt like the 13 was slightly softer, but that's not too big of a deal. It still felt comfortable, and the shoe works. It gives pronators that option, or slight overpronators that option. Hey, do you want a bit more cushioning but not have a clunky shoe. And that's what the guide is for. It feels really nice. Comes in at $130, which is a bit on the high end for light guidance shoes. But all in all, I think it's a good shoe. Let's grade all of these. We'll give them either a thumbs up, thumbs to the side, thumbs down, or avoid like the plague. Glycerin 19, thumbs to the side, does what it does it fine, not too special.
Yeah, exactly. Thumbs to the side.
Coming to the Rivera, I have to give this a thumbs down. I don't think it's going to work for many runners. I think that awkward dynamic with the midsole material is going to be an issue. If they had just a little bit more or a little bit less, I think it would have worked a lot better. And I don't think it looks particularly great either. The only saving grace is that it comes in at $120.
Yeah, like I said, I wanted to have it at a thumbs to the side, but it feels great right when you try it on, but as soon as you move around in it for a while, give it a little walk, give it a little test run, it starts to have that thumbs down. I mean, especially with the sizing too. If you're used to something that's going to be longer for you, this isn't going to really work.
And then one thing I do want to talk about is that Altra reintroduced the ankle lock in this shoe. Thank you, Altra. I realize it was really hard for you to put back an ankle lock, but it really does help the fit.
That'd be about the only thing I could give a thumbs up for.
Moving on to the Cloudswift, which by the way does not have an ankle lock, so you can just makes the fit even worse. Absolute thumbs down. The only thing that's keeping this from avoid like the plague is that some people might like the novel features, and some people who are used to that consistent diameter fit might like it. What we forgot to mention was that this shoe doesn't have a tongue. Or at least not an independent or semi-independent gusseted tongue. It's completely part of the upper. It doesn't help the fit. You don't get a good lockdown with it. Some people might like that. I do not. It doesn't check a single box for me.
Yeah, you give it a thumbs down. I'm saying avoid like the plague. Yet again, every single on shoe I've tried on so far I haven't liked or enjoyed the slightest bit. So yeah, it's going to be avoid like the plague for me.
And finally, well, not finally, we've got the Peregrine GTX, avoid like the plague. It's a scam.
Yeah.
It is a scam. You don't really, most runners won't need the waterproofing, and it's not worth $30 extra. Just get the Peregrine.
Yeah, just get the Peregrine. I mean, with that $30, you can buy yourself an extra pair of socks afterwards to keep your feet dry when you're done. So yeah, definitely avoid like the plague. I mean, if you want a shoe that's really heavy and clunky and just rugged,
go with
then
an
it's
On.
a shoe for you. Go with an On. But yeah, don't get the Peregrine. Stay away from that one. Don't even look at it.
And then the Guide 14. Thumbs up for me. It works as a shoe. The value might be slightly off at $130, but I just think that the options and the range that it gives to slight overpronators is really good, and it's sort of unique in that niche of the shoe market.
Yeah, thumbs up. But just get better colors. Make it look nice.
Yeah. Moving on ahead, we are going to talk about On as a brand. Now, from what you have already gleaned in our show thus far, is that we don't particularly like them. So why is that? The simplest reason is that their shoes feel terrible. I haven't liked a single On shoe. James, you said you didn't like them either.
Yeah, it's tough for me to like. I thought I would, but the more pairs I've tried on, they just get worse and worse, and I don't know how.
Indeed. Frankly, I don't understand where their popularity comes from, but I think they've just driven an incredibly good, but ever so slightly, how should I put this? Misleading ad campaign. So, I've brought up their website, gone straight to the technology page, and I'm ready to crusade against every single one of their claims. So, let's check it out. What do they say? They say, soft landings. Welcome to the ultimate lightweight running sensation. And already I have an issue. Because On
It's
shoes
not lightweight.
are not light at all. I have made a spreadsheet comparing the lightweight neutral On shoe, the Cloud Flow, which comes in at 8.3 ounces, the midweight neutral shoe, the Cloudswift, which comes in at 10 ounces, and their midweight stability shoe, the Cloud Stratus, which comes in at 10.8 ounces. I have compared them to the Saucony Kinvara 12, Ride 13, and Omni 11, the Brooks Launch, I believe we're on the 8, the Ghost 13, and the Adrenaline 21? Or are we on the 20?
I think we're on the 21.
Okay, 21. The New Balance Tempo 880 version 10 and 860 version 11. The Hoka Rincon, Clifton, and Arahi. The Altra Escalante, Rivera, and Provision. The Topo Cyclone, Magnafly, and Ultrafly. Mizuno does not make a lightweight neutral shoe. They do, however, make the Wave Rider 24 and the Wave Inspire 17. And then I compared them to the ASICS Evo Ride 1, the Gel Cumulus 22, and the GT 2009. Of all of these shoes, the On shoes are only lighter than 40%. So 60% of the shoes, that is 14 out of 23 of these shoes from other brands are lighter than On shoes. Going by category, the best On shoe in terms of weight is the lightweight neutral Cloud Flow, which is lighter than half of the shoes in its class. The midweight neutral Cloud Swift does the worst, which is lighter than only a quarter of the shoes in its class. And the midweight stability only has 3 shoes heavier in its class. These are terrible statistics. These shoes are not light.
Yeah, it's shocking when you look at all the data, but I honestly think, I mean, they're Swiss engineered. What do Swiss do best? They stay out of conflicts, and this is a conflict they need to stay out of. They, they need to be Swiss, Swiss in everything they do, and just they need to stop.
Indeed. Moving on ahead, when you hit the ground with an On shoe, the highly adaptive rubber cloud elements cushion both vertical and horizontal forces for a soft landing and start getting you ready to move forward. What horizontal forces are you talking about? What are you running? Where or how are you running that the side of your shoe is coming in contact with something, causing forces to be enacted on it? So, I can't help but call this claim BS. Whatever minimal horizontal forces you are experiencing when you run, they are not worth this much attention. As for the soft landing, no. On shoes feel really hard. Like ASICS levels of hard. It's slightly ridiculous. And as for start getting you ready to move forward, I don't want to move forward in these shoes. I just want to take them off. No. So these claims to me are just slightly over the top. At best, they're misleading. At worst, they're lies. Next up is explosive takeoffs. Cloud Tech is the first system to offer cushioning only during the landing phase when you actually need it. As soon as you strike the ground, the cloud elements lock firm to form a solid foundation for natural, powerful propulsion. Prepare to take off. I have a question for the engineers behind this midsole. How are you expecting the same material to react differently to similar stimuli? When your heel hits the ground, it's very similar forces as when you push off. So if it's going to be firm in the push-off stage, it's going to be firm in the heel. And if it's going to be soft in the heel, then it's going to be soft in the push-off stage. You can't have your cake and eat it on, because it just doesn't physically work like that. Unless you have a two-stage cushioning system, which you do not.
Yeah, I mean, we can think of plenty of times when we're running on bike paths or on roads that we've had to jump into the grass at some point in time. So, how does their technology differ from the soft grass versus the hard pavement? Um, their, their pod technology is what really kills them. I mean, it's just thick, dense rubber that makes the shoe heavy that doesn't provide anything for you. I mean, if you're looking for a really cushioned shoe, you're not going to feel it in any of these because there's no foam or anything that says, oh, look it, cushion. Maybe, just maybe you can feel it when you run, but we rather feel it when we're walking or standing still, not when we're impacting the ground as often as when we run.
And I mean, if you look at On shoes, one of the first things you'll notice is that there's holes in the side of the midsole. To allow for these holes to even exist, the midsole material has to be that much denser so that it doesn't fail right away, so that it doesn't rip off, it doesn't crack, so that those holes don't cause structural instability. What that means is that the midsole material you're running on is that much denser and that much harder underfoot, which is the same issue that DNA AMP has. And if you've listened to any of our previous episodes, you know our opinion on DNA AMP is not high, because it hurts, and On's midsole material does too. Speaking of which, they have a sole for every surface. Helion Superfoam. Helion is foam cushioning that can do it all. Advanced manufacturing methods fuse stiffer foam elements with softer sections to deliver properties previously only possible in independent materials. This to me sounds like the exact same thing as DNA AMP. They're sprinkling magical pixie dust in already dense foam. It's just going to get denser. And if you do not have independent materials, again, how do you expect this foam alloy, for lack of a better term, to react differently to the same stimuli? It doesn't work like that. Helion is light on weight, no, but big on energy return, yes, because it's a brick. What you have to understand with dense elements is that force gets shot straight through them, and the ground then can shoot that much more force back in its equal and opposite reaction. You're not spending as much time squishing the midsole material. What this of course means is that it feels harder underfoot. It's also resistant to temperature changes for year-round high performance. Didn't realize that was so much of an issue. My shoes feel pretty similar in the winter as the summer. Helion is more than just foam. It's a super foam. Helion your run with the Cloudswift. It's really hard to keep from laughing. This is the best of just completely misleading techno jargon marketing. It's supposed to sound smart, but when you look and think about it for 2 seconds, it doesn't work out. It just doesn't add up, and the Cloudswift does not feel good.
Yeah, I mean, if you did a try on and looked at their website, you couldn't feel anything that they're talking about. You know, if you broke it down into the simplest of terms, you still couldn't feel 1 ounce of what they're talking about because it's so skewed, it's so manipulative to make it sound like, hey, this is this really advanced technological shoe that's going to do so much for you, when in reality, it doesn't.
Coming up next, we've got Mission Grip. No two trails are the same. Embracing that unpredictability means a sole that can handle anything. Mission Grip brings trail-level toughness to the unmistakable sensation of running on clouds. Running on the hail from the clouds, perhaps. Varied traction patterns help you come to grips with rough and smooth ground to reach the summit in record time. The unrivaled cushioning of Cloud Tech then takes the impact out of steep inclines so that you can own the downhill. Whatever your off-road mission, the Cloud Venture with Mission Grip has you covered. We do have...
I think the only way you're going to reach the summit, so the only way you're going to reach the summit that they're preaching is when you die from being in these shoes. Your soul is going to leave the body and ascend to the highest peak because it's just bull crap. That's all it is.
Yeah, we do. We have the Cloud Venture in store.
I wish we didn't, but
It's painful.
it's too much in every aspect. Except for the tread. The tread is probably the most minimal tread you could easily get away with a road shoe.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I have a pair of Superiors that I used on the road, which is a lightweight trail shoe from Altra. It doesn't have all too much in the name of outsole lugs for trail, and it has more than this. It's not a great shoe to begin with. Imagine a Cloudswift, but with harder cushioning underfoot and an even worse fit, and then it's not even that grippy. So,
And then the price tag at being $180.
oh my gosh, 180. Would you rather have a crappy trail shoe or a carbon plate shoe? Because the Carbon X comes in at the same price. The Carbon X from Hoka. If a shoe...
It would probably do just as well on the trails as the On.
That's true. That is true, because the only trail that this On works on is the pavement. Moving on swiftly, zero gravity foam. I don't know if we have this foam in any of the shoes we carry. Which is, let me quickly check. The one thing I could think of is perhaps the Cloud Flow. Let's see here. Technology. No, that one uses Helion. That one uses Helion. So yeah, I believe all of the shoes we carry use Helion, which we've already talked about. Since we don't have the zero gravity foam or the rebound rubber, we won't talk about it because we can't speak to it. Maybe it's good. I highly doubt it. Then going on to engineered speedboard design. It's a plate made out of various materials. A lot of shoes have them nowadays. You know what they do. And then they come to their philosophy in 4 steps. focus on cushioning, not correction. That's true, they don't focus much on correction. Their stability comes all from a rather involved heel cup, plastic heel cup in the back of the Cloud Stratus, which feels uncomfortable and offers nothing to the fit of the shoe. So no, there's not much stability. Running should be fun, not an exercise in self-control. Instead of correcting your movement, On lets you run how you were meant to run. On rocks. On's intelligent Cloud Tech cushioning takes the first heavy blow off the street or trail, and then lets you transition naturally to the forefoot, where the cloud elements become firm for a stable and powerful push-off. Cushioning, but only when you need it. We've talked about this. They're reiterating the same point they had before. It's not working. It's pretty terrible. It doesn't feel soft at any point. It just feels really hard.
Plus, remind me again the drop of the cloud flow.
Drop on the cloud flow. Let's see here.
I want to say it's 10.
Okay, I was thinking 7, but I might be off.
Oh, I could be wrong.
Cloud flow. Yeah, the drops on these shoes tend to be relatively high, between 7 and 10 already.
Which is interesting, as they said that they want us to be more natural runners. But the last time I checked, if you try to run barefoot out on the pavement, you wouldn't be landing on your heel first. You'd be up on the forefoot.
Yeah, so this one's actually got a 6mm heel-to-toe drop. That's
okay.
The Cloud Flow, which is respectable. It's the same as the New Balance Tempo. The thing is, however, they want you to actually land on your midfoot, but even then it feels uncomfortable. No matter where you land, it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So not only have they come with physics BS, and now they're reiterating themselves, really wanting you to get the ideas they're trying to market. Freedom for your feet. On shoes don't control your running motion with a rigid sole. I laugh. Instead, a whole team of cloud elements on the sole actively reacts to your individual running motion. They have no predefined rolling line. Instead, the cloud elements cushion your landing by adapting to your foot strike. This puts you back in control, empowering each runner to run how he or she is meant to run. The fit reflects that. You will be running as you do within the shoe itself. It feels like you're swimming because you've got so much space and there's so much movement in the foot. It really does allow you to react naturally.
Yeah, you're going to be moving in the shoe more than the shoe is going to be moving with you. As far as your movement, like going back to the horizontal, the only thing I can think of as far as horizontal movement is with the Cloud X. We've talked about that in one of our previous episodes. Don't get the Cloud X. You're going to roll your ankle if you even try to move horizontal in it. It's hard to think of a time when you would even consider the Ons. I mean, it's interesting when they use the pods. It's an interesting design, but they still need a lot of testing, and probably the end result is just get rid of them.
Harness, balance, and momentum. Back to On. Your running shoe should not succumb to friction when landing. It should transform your motion into forward momentum. The flexibility of the cloud elements combined with the Cloud Tech Speedboard facilitates efficient energy transfer from landing to takeoff. Plus, On shoes are built with the landing sweet spot towards the mid-foot stance, naturally centered under your body, so that upon landing you are immediately ready for takeoff. Good running form in action. Yes, that's right. I push off on my midfoot. Let's talk a little bit about friction. Friction is quite very necessary. It's what allows you to strike on your foot. If there were no friction, you would be slipping around a lot. And I think if On really cares so much about transforming your motion into forward momentum, they should have made wheelies. Or I'm sorry, Heelys, that's what they're called. Should have put wheels in their shoes. That would have worked a bit better. The flexibility of Cloud elements, which, again, there's none. It's a really hard midsole. Facilitates efficient energy transfer from landing to takeoff. When you midfoot strike, the immediate equal and opposite reaction is going to be straight back up. So you still have to roll forward and push off. So when they say they want you naturally centered on your midfoot, that's fine. That's actually quite healthy. It's a lot better than heel striking, but they can't tell me they're trying to efficiently transfer energy, that's their focus. Because frankly, it shouldn't be. It should be a healthy, good feeling running experience, and On simply doesn't have that.
Yeah, as far as that dense pod, like you said, it's just going to be heavy. It's not going to really absorb anything. So when you're saying all that shock is going straight up, that's when you would need at least a little bit of cushion, even if it's firm. Even if it's like how the Asics used to be or how the New Balances used to be. Even if it's a firm cushion, you just need something that has a little bit of squish. Now, the pods might do that, but they're so packly tight together and they're so rugged that they aren't really going to stretch. They're not going to squish down like you're hoping that they will. They're just going to really just stay rock solid.
Yeah. Finally, On says running is a sport, not an illness. I couldn't agree more. Just like in other sports, you can train away your running weaknesses to become a star performer. Okay. Flat feet and other deficiencies are not static, but can be improved through training. I agree. For example, infants typically have flat feet and develop an arch naturally by running around. What does that have to do with running? Or with your shoes in general? That doesn't seem very pertinent. On provides a range of footwear that adapts whatever stage you're at as a runner, supporting your training to propel you to the next level. Start with the more supportive Cloud Flyer, finish in the Cloud Flash Racing Flat, and enjoy every step along the journey. Yes, buy more shoes from us. Indeed. I applaud On for trying to make a shoe meant for everyone, but that's just by the nature of how people's feet are shaped differently and have different issues. That's not how it works.
Yeah, I mean, even going along their lines of you can start out as a little hobby jogger, first time runner, and then end up this elite runner, someone that's really fast and fit. Knowing people that have actually gone on professional titles, if it was me, I'd probably rather sign with Skechers than with On. I don't know many athletes that have signed with On. I could be wrong. There could be a lot of well-known famous runners. I'm just not aware of them. There's not a lot of good to come out of these shoes. So if you're hoping to go as far as college athletes, if you want to go D1 or even be top tier in D2 or D3, I wouldn't train in these.
Yeah, and what I've gleaned from reading through the technology page on On's website and what I've learned from wearing their shoes is that they're more marketing than anything else. The shoes are like what Asics was a couple of years ago, just really hard underfoot, a terrible fit that's too wide in certain parts and too narrow in others. I applaud the experiment, but it's not working. It really doesn't feel good. And then you factor in the price of On shoes. They are consistently $20 to $40 above the range or above the standard industry price that comparable shoes are at. I mean, take for example, we'll go through all four On standard slash trail running shoes that we carry in our store. We start with the Cloud Flow, which comes in at 140. It's a lightweight neutral shoe, which is being compared to something like the Saucony Kinvara Brooks Launch Hoka Rincon. The most expensive of those three is the Rincon at 115. That's a $25 difference. If we go to the Cloudswift, it's being compared to the Brooks Ghost, Saucony Ride, New Balance 880. Each of those comes in at 130. The Swift comes in at 150. $20 difference. We come to the Cloud Stratus, which comes in at 170. Compared again to that mid-weight stability shoe, something like the Saucony Omni, Brooks Adrenaline GTS. Those come in at 130. That's a $40 difference. And then the trail shoe. The Cloud Venture comes in at $180.
And there's not much to compare to.
No.
But just know any other trail option you go with, the On is going to be significantly more expensive for what you're getting.
Indeed. I think the closest shoe that comes to it is the Ultra Olympus, which is at 170. So that's a $10 difference. But that is a ridiculous shoe. Your standard trail shoe is going to be around 130, 140, which is a $50 to $40 difference. And what are you getting for it? A shoe that does not fit the American foot. American feet tend to be a bit wider. They tend to like softer cushioning. That's what Brooks is known for. That's what Hoka is known for. I mean, Saucony and New Balance not as much. Asics and Mizuno especially not, but their cushioning is getting softer. I mean, On just feels completely made for the European market, and even for them it's not that great. It's just too expensive, too much marketing, too many elements that don't work together. And in the end, you get a product that is just inferior to everything else on the market. Do not buy Ons. They may feel fine in the store. They will probably feel pretty bad after a while. Just a brand where all the elements do not fit.
I'm going to change the names to offs. They're just off in every sense of the word, every design of the shoe. I think that On should really do a employee switch day, where the developers become the advertisers and the marketing team becomes the designers. I mean, their marketing game is strong. They can really change the way you feel in the shoe when you're reading all the stuff that they write down. So who knows, maybe that the marketing team would have a better shoe design than the actual designers themselves. But unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever get a chance to actually have that happen.
No. So, with that said, leave in the comments, what do you think of On? Have you had bad experiences with On? Have you had good experiences with On? Do you not really care at all? What's your favorite shoe brand? Anything. Tell us in the comments what you think. And feel free to leave a like if you liked the episode, a dislike if you didn't. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Keep safe out on the trails. And have fun. And keep running. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.